Good afternoon to you. Mark Sutton with HurricaneTrack.com here. Hurricane Outlook and Discussion Time. It's Thursday, the 22nd day of October, 2020. And we got a lot to talk about today. We have Hurricane Epsilon out there, almost reaching that 120 mile per hour mark that I was thinking that it would reach. I was correct in that it would become a major hurricane. It just seemed to fit the pattern. We've seen other hurricanes do that in the same general vicinity, and I just felt like it had a shot. So close with my 120 prediction. As it reached 115, it became a major hurricane, the fourth major hurricane of the year. And there's other stuff to talk about as well. The tropics are still active, and we got to look for some things maybe coming up down the road a piece. We got some lower 48 weather to talk about. It's a busy time in the world of weather, not just hurricane season. But it is still hurricane season, and that being the case, that being said, we do have this one area down in the Western Caribbean, 30% chance of development over the next several days. We have Epsilon up here to the east and east-southeast of Bermuda. If we look at this from the 5-day outlook graphical perspective, or what they call the graphical tropical weather outlook, you'll notice this little area down here extending through central Cuba and then parts of the Bahamas. This will end up bringing some heavy rainfall to the region, maybe trying to bundle up a little bit and organize a little bit more. And, I'm going to just come out and say it's not going to shock me at all if we see something develop as this starts to head out. Probably, I just got this feeling, we're going to see a name storm somewhere in this area as it moves away. And then upper level winds are going to come in and shear it off, and then that'll be it. But I feel it. The pattern, whatever, that's what it looks like is going to happen. It's just my gut call based on experience, looking at systems from the past and how they have evolved. And I'll show you some of why I think this as we move forward. All right, so here's the satellite animation. I finally got the GIF animation to work again from Tropical Tidbits. I was having trouble with it in Firefox. Something changed and I wasn't able to create these nice animations from the satellite button, and our friend Matt from Austin gave me the workaround, told me what to do. So I am back in business. So a few things that we can notice here. First of all, our trough of low pressure, just general disturbed area of weather down in the Caribbean Sea. We have Hurricane Epsilon over here. My wife was asking me, well, what is that? She's like, that's Epsilon, right? I was like, yep. She's like, what is that? I was like, well, that's just a blob of clouds and convection. Really not going to amount to anything. Strong upper level winds cutting across these features down here in the deep tropics, but don't let that fool you. Even though these are being sheared, this still represents a lot of energy down there. These African easterly waves, the tropical waves are there. The seedlings are there, and something might try to develop out of that. And then we got to talk about a little bit today, Colorado. We got some fires going on out there, and the potential for some early season snow and ice and other winter mischief for the Texas Panhandle, parts of New Mexico, and we're going to get into that. It's beginning to become the time of year that I start focusing more on lower 48 weather as well as the tropics, and I'll discuss that at the end here. But it's going to be an interesting time coming up. Fairly active lower 48 weather, as I've alluded to there, but also the tropics. I've just got this feeling we are not done yet with an impactful system for some land area. And that just doesn't mean just the United States. And I think the Gulf Coast, for example, the northern Gulf Coast from about 28 degrees latitude right around here and points north, your hurricane season, for the most part, I'm 90% sure, is over. You don't have to worry about much. Yes, there's an outside chance, what we call a non-zero chance. The one area I would be concerned with at all is South Florida for direct impacts from a hurricane. And that's just climatologically speaking. That makes sense this time of year. That would be a valid statement any year at this time of year. But coming up, I've got a sense in the modeling and in the guidance and the overall pattern that this area through here and then maybe leading up into the Southwest Atlantic somewhere, we're going to see some activity. It's just the pattern is heading in that direction. So we'll get into that as I move forward. First, let's zoom in on Epsilon over here. It made a pretty good name for itself yesterday, quite literally. Exceeding expectations well, my expectations were not exceeded, they were met. I thought this would become a major hurricane, and I was correct, and I'll brag about it a little bit. It just looked like it was going to do so, and I've seen other hurricanes before do the same thing, as I mentioned. Nevertheless, there's Bermuda over there on the west side, and this has a pretty large wind field, and so Bermuda is experiencing some pretty breezy conditions. We'll have to check in with our buddy Howard in Bermuda and see if he can report on what's going on. Howard, are the palm trees blowing? Are the fronds coming off like they do in Florida? You ever seen that in South Florida? Those big palm fronds blow right off of there, and if you're not careful, they'll bonk you on the head and damage your car if you park underneath one of those suckers. But it is breezy there, some tropical storm conditions, the high surf, so forth and so on. But the good news, certainly in this situation, is Epsilon is going to continue to move off to the north and eventually track out into the North Atlantic, merge with another system over the far North Atlantic near Iceland, and become a powerful oceanic storm. But a pretty neat looking sight overall. You probably saw on Twitter the Hurricane Hunter, the Air Force Reserve plane that flew through the eye from eye wall to eye wall. Really neat video that somebody captured, and the stadium effect that Epsilon was displaying, and it really made me jealous because we have a weather balloon that is designed, at least the payload, to go through that and up through the center and actually capture all of that on GoPro cameras, and as well as collect meteorological data. And we were this close to being able to do it in Delta. Now, Delta didn't have a clear eye at landfall, but you see something like Epsilon, and we got that project, the Herbie project. It's like, oh, come on, one day, season's not over. We might have that chance, who knows, before it's all said and done. Wouldn't that be something if it's November that we actually launch the balloon in the eye during daytime? And just a quick side note, it has been done once. We did it one time during Nate 3 years ago, but it was at 1 o'clock in the morning. So you don't see anything. We got great data. It worked. We got it back. And, the GoPros were on, and you can see a little bit as you go up over D'Iberville and Biloxi. And if you actually want to see that, it's on Amazon Prime, Tracking the Hurricanes 2017. It's free, included with Prime. And the Nate portion is all about that. We actually did it, in case you didn't know that. Just hadn't done it during the daytime. Tested it in the daytime, but never launched in the eye during the daytime. One day, we'll get there. All right, so the Vorticity Signature today, there's Epsilon, very obvious. Yeah, some energy trying to come together here in the Western Caribbean, so we got to watch and see this general trough of low pressure. And the trough of low pressure is just another way of saying an area where the air is coming together, it's converging, and you call that convergence. And that means that the air starts to rise down there, converging, and it goes up. And if the upper level winds allow, it can continue to go up, and you get thunderstorms. It feeds back on itself, and you get a tropical cyclone. That's generally the way it works, unless other factors mitigate that. And then it doesn't happen, and you just have a trough of low pressure or a tropical wave or whatever, and this whole mess should move up through here. But I suspect, like I said, I just got a feeling this thing's going to get named Zeta somewhere out here. You'll see. We'll see. I got a hunch. If it's right, great. At least it'll be out here in the open areas of the Atlantic, and it shouldn't bother anybody. We'll talk about that more tomorrow. But elsewhere, there is energy out here that we need to watch. This low latitude piece of energy here is another one here. I'm not really concerned about this, but the general guidance is suggesting that a pretty favorable pattern is going to set up across this region as we get into the latter part of October and into November. Strong upward motion signal from the modeling, the GFS, the CFS, the Euro. I think it's all coming together for one last hurrah, and we just have to see if it's significant, if it's just a big rainmaker, which can be significant, don't get me wrong. Never ever want to diminish the power of too much rain. But, we're all here to basically see, are we going to get a hurricane? I understand that. That's the big draw, that H word. And we'll see. Sea surface temperature-wise, these are the anomalies. This should be really impressive in terms of what it means. And just take a look. All of the Atlantic Basin, statistically speaking, it's close to 100%. A few little areas in here below average. A little over here, right over here, tiny piece in the Gulf. Actually, right in the middle zone there, it's right at neutral. So if you just look at the blues only, we're literally at, statistically, it's 100%. You can just round it up. Rounding error, okay? The Atlantic Basin, the North Atlantic, north of the equator, Caribbean Sea, Gulf of Mexico, the whole thing, warmer than average to some degree. A quarter degree, a half degree, a full degree, depending on where you look. That is astounding. It is. And something's causing that. Is it man-made global warming? I don't know. We're not going to get into that. I honestly don't know. I cannot sit here and go, yep, it's because of this, this, and this, and this, and it's definitive. Probably we have a hand in it. I think it's ignorant to think that we don't. And it's probably a natural evolution of things with the Atlantic multi-decadal oscillation. A fancy way of saying that for many years the Atlantic's cold and for many years the Atlantic's warm. We have seen that over the eons, going back and looking at samples, all sorts of scientific data that shows there is a natural rhythm to the warmth of the Atlantic. And this year it's pretty warm overall, and there's the data to show you. And then conversely, in the Pacific here, the La Nina, very strong and solid, and this, coupled with the pattern that's coming up, gives me confidence that we're going to see something of significance develop in this area before November 15th. All right, that's just my broad call. All right, something's going to happen. I feel it. It's coming. The models are showing me the guidance overall, the bigger picture. Not necessarily an operational run. You understand that? And we'll look at that in a moment. But going back just a minute to Epsilon over here, let's go to our tracking map. That is the super duper tracking map, as I call it. We'll come up with a better name. But this is fantastic. I mean, come on. There's nothing like this anywhere out there. And this is what our crowdfunding Patreon support goes to support. Quite literally, Will Woodgate over in the UK put this together for us, and what I wanted to show you is Epsilon's track. You get the idea. There it is. And remember, I kept talking about the swells, and I thought, well, let's take a peek real quick at some of our cameras down here. Come on, people. Isn't this friggin' awesome? I think it is. Let's look at St. Thomas over here. Sorry. That's St. John. My fault. I thought I had these correct. Maybe they're switched on the map. I have to go look and see. Something might be off, but that's fine if the internet will cooperate with me. The view here from St. Thomas, you can see some of those swells coming in. And let me look on my map on my phone here, and I don't mind being wrong. It's okay to be wrong. Maybe we have it coded incorrectly. I thought that St. John was to the west of St. Thomas, but maybe we are incorrect, and if so, we will correct it. So there's St. John, and then St. Thomas, Charlotte Amalie is to the west. How about that? You learn something every day. I'm a busy man, and sometimes I get confused. Nevertheless, we have it mapped properly, just Mark doesn't have it right up here. But forget all that. Look at that. That's the swells coming in. That's the point I wanted to show you. My map indiscretions notwithstanding. I just had a brain fart. That's fine. And I'm almost 50 years old, so that's going to happen more and more. Is that a sailboat out there? That might be a sailboat. I got distracted from my screw up here. But those are the swells coming in from Epsilon. Beautiful to see. And I just wanted to show you. That was the bottom line. And I kind of screwed the pooch there, not realizing that St. John is over on the right. St. Thomas is on the left to the west. Now I know. All right, whatever. I do know that Rodanthe, which is the other camera I want to show you up here, is on the eastern part of the North Carolina Outer Banks. I mean, I do know that for a fact. And we got a Nest Cam out there in one of our partners' houses, and it's zoomed in digitally. You know, the Nest Cam's normally a big, wide shot, and I zoomed in they got some pretty good pushed up dunes there from the bulldozers and the front loaders or whatever. But there are some pretty good swells coming in to the Outer Banks. Luckily, they haven't breached the dunes just yet, and no overwash, at least at this point. But that being said, as I'll show you here in a minute, on the National Weather Service lower 48 shot, we do have rip currents, and there are swells out there. And you can check Surfline and Surf Checks and all that. I'm sure there's plenty of other cams. But these are our cams. These are our own hosted cameras, and that's what it looks like. So there you go. GFS, let's take a look out in time, shall we? And we're going to notice a few things. First of all, again, we're using the wide shot of the GFS today. There's Africa, because we need to keep an eye on what happens with Epsilon and then a big storm system up here and how it will impact portions of the northeast Atlantic region. We'll just call it that. Ireland, the UK, Scotland, etc. All right? So let's just look at it in that perspective. I got a good schooling from someone on YouTube, and much appreciated, by the way, on what's what and where is where. And then we need to keep an eye on the little trough of low pressure down here and some of this energy here and other energy that comes off Africa down the road a piece. So let's move this into motion, and we'll go out 24 hours. Epsilon still a hurricane, 48 still a hurricane. How's our trough of low pressure? It's down here. You can just kind of see the bending in the height line. Very little in the way of overall signature, so I'm not too concerned about it. Not yet, anyway. At 60 to 72 hours, Epsilon's racing past the Canadian Maritimes and Atlantic Canada, well to the southeast of Cape Race in Newfoundland. Where's that? Newfoundland up here, and there's Epsilon right there. And at 72 hours, just a little bit of a reflection here, passing through the Bahamas of our trough. More heavy rain if you follow Brian McDoldy on Twitter or Facebook. He's down at University of Miami, the meteorologist, posting a lot about king tides, hurricanes, water temperatures, all kinds of stuff. And he said that this is the rainiest that it's ever been since he's lived down there. He's been charting that. And that's without any tropical systems directly impacting South Florida. Directly. No direct hurricane landfalls or anything like that. And it's been extremely wet in this little trough. Tiny little area of energy right through there. Well, fairly small. Going to bring you more rain. And, you know, that can be problematic when you've got a billion people that live down there. Certainly seems like it, doesn't it? I've been in South Florida traffic. It seems like a billion people sometimes. Anyway, going out to 96 hours, that's what I'm talking about. We'll look at this in a minute, this giant storm. But look what happens. That little trough deal tries to close off in the southwest Atlantic, where water temperatures are still warm. Yes, I think there's a decent chance that it tries to develop. And so at day 5 here, as we get towards day 5, look what happens. Wow. That is a huge freaking storm. Good grief. The Charlie Brown, we need Charlie Brown. Cue Charlie Brown. Good grief. Wow. I mean, if you know what a fetch is, the wind blowing across water and the length and the duration of that is called the fetch. And the longer the fetch, the higher the waves, the more energy gets input. Think about how wide this area of the North Atlantic is that we're looking on this Mercator projection map. Dude, I mean, and it's all directly aimed, this wind field, towards Ireland and Great Britain, okay, and the North Atlantic as a whole. So the oil interests out there, the wind farms, the North Atlantic oil, wow. Areas south of Iceland. This, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be a big deal. And you're going to hear about it in the news. And you know, people like Ryan Maui are going to tweet about it because they keep up with this kind of stuff, the extreme low pressure that's going to develop from this. Holy moly. So what it's going to do is going to ingest that energy from Epsilon and just turn into this monster North Atlantic storm. Really impressive. It really is. Elsewhere, small now, but that's 5 days out. I bet. I just got a feeling that's going to become Zeta. Is it going to be a problem for anybody? No, not really. we're going to get some rip currents and swells and whatever lasting for days because of Epsilon. And this zeta potential here could do that as well, but not nearly as big or as robust. But folks, look at this other signal. Do you see it? How obvious it is? Really? At the end of October? Seriously? That's like a September pattern. Holy, my goodness. Massive sprawling area of high pressure covering the Atlantic, sending these easterly waves where? Right into the Caribbean. And what's going to happen? Models are indicating favorable upward motion. In the upper levels of the atmosphere, the chart we're looking at is 5,000 feet. Remember, the atmosphere is layered like onions and cake and parfait. Remember Shrek and Donkey? Same thing. The atmosphere. It's too bad they didn't say that. That would have been cool. If it was, like onions, if Donkey or Shrek had said, like the atmosphere has layers. Seriously, it does. And this is the lower 5,000 feet. And that is a serious area of high pressure out there. So this is day 5. And, just for educational purposes, just kind of looking to see how things go, what happens if we keep going? And we're going to preface this with, when you go out into time, the model resolution changes later on after about day 8, I think. Maybe it's day 10 now. And it's easier for the model to just run away with convective feedback. So please don't look at something and go, ooh, there's a hurricane coming in 12 days. No, that's not what we're showing. We're just looking at the larger pattern. So there's day 5. Here's day 6. Still that big sprawling area of high pressure. Day 7, still there. And a little bit of a trough here, finally digging its way in. Oops, I drew a box. Sorry. Trying to draw that. There's the trough right there. But then, that's a monster ridge still sitting out there. That's day 7. Let's go out to day 8. There, day 9. And then finally day 10. We'll stop there. Just to kind of give you an idea. Yes, we get a progressive pattern with these troughs that try to come through, but then they lift out. And what's left? This big ridge just holding on. And then down below at day 10, yeah, it's 10 days out, but it's not like it's 2 weeks out. We start to see the beginnings once again. It's just a signal. It's chatter. It's noise. It's, it's like kind of ringing the bell. Hello, let's just see. We see it in the modeling, the operational. Let's see if it's in the ensembles. The pattern, the larger picture is there. I talked about the ensembles, the EPS, the GEFS, the CFS, all these FSs, right? But it's the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is saying the pattern should produce tropical cyclones. Well, maybe that's not accurate. Not should produce. The pattern will be there for something to happen. Does that make sense? It doesn't mean that it has to happen. But I think the pattern will be there to open the door for something to happen. So that's the tropics. Now I want to back away a little bit and focus on lower 48 weather because we can, and I want to keep you aware. East of the Mississippi, over here, you're great, no problem. Indian summer, whatever you want to call it, firmly in control. I just showed you that with that strong ridging. We're good to go. Occasional troughs will come through. You get rain from here to there, from time to time, whatever, but no big deal. No major storms in the east. It's all going to be out west, the upper Midwest, etc. Couple of big problems. The fires, absolutely, out here, especially in Colorado. You've seen that really rear its ugly head lately. And we got to start watching for portions of Central California in the coming days for what they call the Diablo event, the Santa Ana. Well, that's further south, I think. But the Diablo wind, generally coming through parts of the Sierras down here. Bottom line, an active stormy pattern in the west, the Rockies, and into portions of the plains and down into Texas, the Panhandle. Right now, these pinks, generally your red flag, wind advisories, etc., fire weather, whatever. What color is that? Kind of a purple color and then a pinkish color. Those are winter weather advisories and winter storm watches and things like that. Winter is coming, as the meme shows, right, from Game of Thrones. But for real, people, we got some problems coming up, and I want to show you that right here. We know about the fires. Hopefully you're well aware of that. But thank you, Windows 10 behind me. The next few days, 24, 48, 72, you see what happens? This big old Canadian high dropping out of Canada. That's where Canadian highs come from. Sinking south. Strong winds coming in from the east. Those fires, not good at all. Then the snow comes, a little bit of a disturbance there. Dropping south. Strong winds. Winter weather in the Rockies. Some stuff in parts of the plains. Yup, we're out about 102 hours. And then it finally kind of settles in over the Texas Panhandle, maybe Amarillo, Kansas. Maybe. This is 5 days out. This would be Tuesday morning. 1037 millibar high centered over southern Wyoming and north central Colorado. Easterly winds over here. So, I bring this up because, thanks to the support of our crowdfunding group, I am seriously considering getting on an airplane on Saturday and going out there, renting a vehicle, working with a couple of our other patrons that are out there and elsewhere, and providing on-the-ground information and coverage and reporting. And just, the weather is awesome. I mean, and sometimes it turns against us, and sometimes it could be problematic. And, I mean, I finally am in a position, thanks to this, that I am able to do so. I'm not a $300 million company like the Weather Channel just yet, where I can go out with a producer and a field crew and 15 reporters, but I can take a handful of cameras and put them out, and I can take my drone, and I can be everywhere I want to go, like Charles Peake, you know him from the Weather Channel? He does an outstanding job. I bet he's going to go out there. Reed Timmer does a great job. I look at it as, hey, we're all in this together. We don't compete with each other. And in my situation, because of that right there, crowdfunding, I am able to do this kind of stuff beyond hurricanes. And it also keeps me in game mode for hurricanes. It keeps our technology up to date. Maybe we test something. But the bottom line, if you are into hurricanes, you're probably into other extreme weather or interesting weather. And in some cases, dangerous weather. And this has the potential to be kind of dangerous. So I alerted my wife, look at it as yellow. A low chance that Mark will be leaving, you know, at the Hurricane Center, the yellow, the orange, and the red. I'm in yellow right now. Low probability. We'll call it about 20%. Not quite an invest yet. That, hey, that's clever. An invest MKS. That's my initials, Mark Kendrick Setheth. Whatever. I'm getting off subject, trying to be cute. But seriously, I think there's a low chance right now. I got to look at a few things, figure out the cost and all that. But back to this. It is Patreon that I'm able to do this. And it's really this $10 level here. You know, you can join for $1 and you get benefits. Absolutely. But at the $10 level, you start to unlock the true power of what we're doing. And it's not over because hurricane season's winding down. I would argue this is a great time to join and become part of this because we're going to be doing so much in the off season. And then the other tiers, it goes up to whatever you want, $100 or more. And that is growing. We do have people that are in the position financially to support it at higher levels. And that is wonderful because in the end, it enables me to do what I've always wanted to do. And that is to cover hurricanes without having to even worry about it expense-wise, support my family, got to pay the bills. It's my job. I deserve to be able to do that, right? It's the American dream. But also the freedom to go out and do the best that I can with the best technology that we can afford, where we offer something that is beyond what you get on television. The age of traditional television weather coverage has changed. We know that. There's still a role, local and national, absolutely. But what we have here, especially on HurricaneTrack with our insider site, this interactive map, this is all part of that world. All right, so that's what we do with the crowdfunding, and that's how you get involved. Patreon.com/HurricaneTrack. So anyway, it's not even a pitch anymore. It's more like, why didn't you tell me about that? That's awesome. You know, people go, oh, you're begging for money. Horse crap. Seriously. No, I'm not. I'm letting you know about something awesome. It's just like and I know I'm being a little hyperbolic here, but a big frickin' movie's coming out and they advertise for you to go see it. They want your $10 or your $18 or your $20. They're not begging for money. They want you to go see their $200 million movie. And it's crowdfunded because you go see it. I'm passionate about this, and I want you to get involved if you can, because holy mackerel, what we're doing with it is truly revolutionary. All right? That's it. I'm done. I am Mark Stud of HurricaneTrack.com. As always, thanks for being there on the other side. That's what matters to me the most. It really does. So thanks for watching. I'll be back with more for you tomorrow.